Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Chalk Talk. Today is November the 7th. It is the first the first Tuesday of November. Happy Tuesday, everybody. And before I say anything else, today is Election Day. If you did not vote early, make sure you get out to vote. It is your right, it is your responsibility, it is your privilege. Here on Chalk Talk, we never tell you who to vote for, but we do encourage you to vote. So it's election day. Get out to vote. Make sure you do that. And man, do we have an exciting show for you. I'm super excited. Our NBA expert is joining us today. I got a chance to see him last night at the Houston Rockets game, their third win in a row. And it's always good to have my good friend and colleague, the guru, if you will, of basketball, what I call him, is our Chalk Talk expert, Keli Iko. Welcome to Chalk Talk, Kelly. Oh, wait, I got to bring you right. All right. Welcome, my friend. How are you? First of all, thank you for joining me. I know you've got a lot going on. Rockets practice today. How you been?
Doing good. Just, getting used to the lay of the land. Obviously, what comes with the new season, travel and just getting situated. But it's been pretty good. Can't complain.
So tell us, I know that since last season, your role has expanded with the Athletic. Tell us what that includes and how are you navigating that?
So yeah, now I'm essentially a regional reporter. I'm covering Houston, but also covering Memphis, also covering San Antonio. If they ever need me to go, maybe somewhere like Atlanta or something, I'm always available there as well. And it's different, obviously it's more responsibility because now you have to pay attention to multiple things going on at once. The travel is obviously going to be a lot, but it's good. It's good to put your foot in different arenas and have to, you know, figure out how to survive basically, and it improves your reporting, it improves your storytelling, it improves your analysis. So it's been pretty good so far. Each team is pretty unique in what they're going through right now in the first 2 weeks of the year. So I think so far so good.
So far, so good. Well, let's hop right into it. The team that you had been covering primarily until you got this expansion, this promotion, if you will, was the Houston Rockets. So
Yeah.
you've been with this team through some very lean times in recent years. New things have happened, new coach, some veterans added. What are your initial impressions? I mean, the season's still young. What you see so far?
I think the early impressions are very promising. I think one thing that Ime Udoka and his coaching staff have done is that they've instilled this, I guess, early culture of control and early culture of accountability that, frankly, wasn't there for the last 2 3 seasons. Now you add Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks to this young roster, bringing other guys like Jeff Green, Jock Landale, Aaron Holiday. Just looking at the locker room, and you've been in there on numerous occasions, it just feels more mature. It doesn't feel like what we saw in the past where,
Yeah.
guys were just steadily goofing off, and even after, 20, 30 point losses, like it didn't feel like they cared that much. And now you have something where Ime has come in and essentially put his foot down and said, this is how things are going to go. So you either fall in line or you'll be sitting on the bench.
Hmm.
And right off the bat, like you look at a guy like Alperen Şengün, like who has started
Wow.
this in very impressive fashion. He's taken that third year leap that, frankly, a lot of people were, expecting but hoping on. And then, him becoming more of a solid team defender, which has helped Ime's defensive scheme and be able to, do certain things. You can switch more. You can bring him to the line of touch. But overall, from a feel standpoint, it just feels better. Now, granted, you're still going to go through your offensive ups and downs as you try to get acclimated with guys on the floor. But from a defensive standpoint, these guys are flying around. They're aggressive. They're forcing
Yeah.
turnovers. They're getting their hands in areas that they should be in. And they look to give themselves a fighting chance on any given night just because of how hard they're playing defensively. So I think between this time last year and now, it's a night and day difference.
It absolutely is. And you mentioned defense, and you mentioned Alpy. So last night I was just looking at the line again. Alpy was flying all over the place. He ended up with 17 points. He came close to a triple double, but he didn't quite get there. But he ended up with, and he was 7 of 13 from the field. He actually had 17 points, 12 assists, and 8 rebounds. And so we were joking about that. Just out talking about his performance last
Like
night.
we are playing like an animal right now. Like out there, like a wild. Like everyone is tough and physical. Everyone's helping each other. And nobody nobody getting easy points anymore. We running back, offensive rebound. We does everything right now. And we need to, I think, keep it up this all year, and we're not gonna let anyone mess with us this year.
Were you aware that you are?
So that's Alp. And the question that came up next, somebody asked him, I think Danielle from the Chronicle was asking if he was aware that he was close to a triple double. And we heard Ime in the background saying, if you box out, we all kind of chuckle. But you mentioned accountability. It's that kind of thing. And we're seeing a whole different Alperen Şengün, which is great. Let me ask your thoughts about what you're seeing from Jalen Green. We saw Jalen in each of his first 2 seasons look like take a step. And now I think we're kind of waiting to see what this looks like for him in year 3. Your early thoughts about Jalen Green?
Yeah, so Jalen is going to go through probably the biggest adjustment just because of, for 2 seasons he played alongside, Kevin Porter Jr. and his role was much different than what it is now. He had a green light and could do whatever he wanted. And now you have to adjust to more of a team setting. Ime always talks about, playing guys to their strengths, but ultimately playing to the team strengths. And one of the team's strengths early on is ball movement, giving up good shots for great shots. And Jalen's still trying to find his sweet spot in terms of, calling his own number as opposed to moving the ball or setting a screen for somebody or just spacing the floor. So that's why you see some of his early season performances have been up and down. He looked good last night because he was super aggressive from the jump. But I think as these games come, he'll get more comfortable, playing alongside Fred VanVleet, staggering those lineups, and playing time with Aaron Holiday. And then when Thompson gets back, just figuring out how to, be comfortable. Because as a young player, the biggest thing for young players that want to take that next step is recognition. How do you know when to do what? And, part of Jalen's problems from the first 2 seasons was that he knew what to do, but more often than not, he was doing, what he wanted to do. So now you're in a system where that's not going to fly anymore, and you're adapting, and he's adapting well, but he's still a young player, so it's going to take some time before you see, him in his truest form.
Kelly, one of the things that I think that has also been interesting to me is that Dylan Brooks early on. I think that we've seen Dylan be more effective offensively than I know I expect, and we knew about him defensively. Has that surprised you? And do you think that that's going to be something we see consistently? Is the Dylan Brooks with this great offense he's shown up with?
So it didn't surprise me because I spent some time with him in the summer, and he was really open about kind of his struggles in Memphis in terms of the efficiency stuff, some of the shot selection, and getting the chance to move to Houston and kind of start a new chapter. The biggest thing that he wanted to do for himself personally was to kind of show people how efficient he can be in terms of the shots he takes, expanding his game, being more than just a floor spacer and a catch and shoot guy. Obviously, from a defensive standpoint, you know what you're getting with Dylan in terms of you're going to get that aggressive. At times he's going to gamble, at times he's going to pay off, sometimes it won't. But he is going to give that effort. He is going to communicate. He is that agitator that teams need on their side.
Yeah.
So offensively, he's looked really good. I think he's shooting over 55% from 3 early on. He's just hitting his shots. He's being able to attack closeouts and straight line drives, taking advantage of mismatches. Looking really sharp, and he's looking like some money well spent early on now. we're still only 6 games to the year, so we don't know how that looks, 20, 30 games down the line. But for right now, you can't complain.
You can't complain. I think there have been a lot of, I don't know, surprises. I think Aaron Holiday is a guy that, for those if you really follow basketball, you're maybe not surprised with what you've seen. But when he comes in, like last night, he came in and had 13 points off the bench. It's perfect 6 of 6 from the field, but he all dishes it out, gets some rebounds. And then, of course, there's Jayshawn Tate, who just does the hard work. And we're
Right.
seeing that with him being healthy. We see him doing that again. And that obviously is not a surprise for those of us who follow this team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess for Tate, the biggest thing for him is every coaching staff that he's been as a member of the roster, they've all said the same thing. He's a winning player that contributes to winning basketball. Now, because the Rockets only won 22 games last year and 19 the year prior, so sometimes that gets lost in translation. But
Right.
last year he was essentially playing on one leg. And I've talked to him numerous times about this. He wasn't healthy at all. And, the biggest thing that people take away from him was his 3-point shooting. But as a wing player, as a defensive-minded player, if you don't have the luxury of taking 6, 7 threes a game and you're only getting 1 to 2, and you're not hitting those, your numbers come down pretty quickly, and that often bleeds into perception. So now he's getting 3 or 4 threes a game. If he's hitting 2 of them, his numbers look much better than what people have seen in the past. So I think for Tate, continue to move the ball, continue to be a versatile, switchable defender, a capable, third playmaker, fourth playmaker, whatever you want to call it. He's helping winning basketball, and same goes for Aaron Holiday. Like, he stepped in knowing that, his role was going to be diminished because of, the need to play Amen Thompson and, Fred and Jalen. The minutes were kind of hard to come by, but now, because Amen is out for a few weeks, now you can bring in Aaron Holiday as a veteran presence to kind of stabilize things a bit, help Jalen, when Fred sits, and he's actually been pretty solid. Like, he hasn't been a liability on either end of the floor. He's moving the ball, he's hitting some shots, he's finishing some things around the rim. It's looking pretty nice for him, given expectations. So I think for those guys particularly, so far so good.
Let's talk about a guy who may come today. I know they're going to practice this afternoon and may be ready to play tomorrow. Could be, I guess, when the Lakers come to town. And that's Tari Eason.
Yeah.
How much is going to help this team, or how much do they miss him? It seems like they miss him a lot, and people will say, "Well, Tari is going to be a factor." I think.
Yeah, he's a junkyard dog. He fits right into that culture that Ime wants to do. From a rebounding standpoint, he was one of the best offensive rebounding rookies that we've seen in a while. So that's going to obviously help them on the glass, which is a plus sign. Offensively, last season Tari kind of showed some promise. He also showed sometimes needs to slow things down. Can be kind of a bullet in the china shop at times, but he can hit those outside shots. He can crash. He can attack straight line drives. He's a good player. So, and the second unit needs bodies. They need players that can just come in and take minutes, and Tari needs to continue off from his exciting rookie season anyway. So him come back is the perfect timing for them right now.
You mentioned rookie season. Jabari Smith Jr., at the end of last season, he told us, what he was going to work on in the summer, the step that he wanted to take. And it looks like he's done those things. He has taken that step into his second year. And although we're young into the season, so far so good. He had 17 points last night. He was 5 of 8, 3 of 5 from 3, which I think is kind of a deal for him. And he's gotten a little better at handling the ball. I mean, not that you want him as your power, your point forward, but he obviously worked a lot in the offseason.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for Jabari, I think, is just getting him back to being a perimeter-oriented guy because of his size. He came into this league projected as a 6'10", 6'11", 3-and-D guy. Now, during his rookie season, that was kind of up and down because the shot wasn't consistent, the confidence wasn't there, and then the defense wasn't, up to par. But now you're seeing Ime put him in different packages, allowing him to be more aggressive with the ball in his hands. He's placing him different spots around the perimeter. He's not just operating, trying to beat guys with a fadeaway 15-footer every time. He's actually, taking what he sees from the defense and putting that into perspective. So I think for Jabari, if he continues on this trajectory, it makes their offense look a lot better. If you have a consistent release valve that can hit 35, 36, 37, 38% from three, you can do more as an offense simply. And you can trust that Fred and Alp and Jalen will find the ball they'll find you the ball if you can space the floor and do enough things to keep the defense honest. So I think for Jabari, it's just continuing, to take those reps, continuing to take those, the games as they come, and keeping your confidence consistent.
No, before we go, I gotta ask you about Cam Whitmore, the rookie. I feel like he's got a lot of promise. When do you think we will see him? I know it's finding the minutes for his position are kind of tough because they're jammed there. But what are your expectations for Cam Whitmore?
I don't expect him to play much this season. I just think, like you said, it's a logjam. There's too many minutes at similar positions, and I think he would really benefit, especially given how close the Vipers system is to what the Rockets want to do. I think it would behoove all parties involved to get him down there at some point, get him as much game time as possible to get his development going, because the worst thing for young players is to not be playing. That's the worst thing for young players to go. You have to get on the floor at some point. You have to play. Now, the G League is obviously a step down from the NBA, but there are still applicable concepts from both systems that you can take and learn and grow as a player. So just getting on the floor is going to be immensely important for him right now. But I just don't see where the minutes come from, with the senior team.
Right. Talk to Keli Iko from The Athletic. And because you've always obviously paid attention to the whole league, but you cover the region now. Tell us what sticks out with you from what you're seeing. Obviously, I'm gonna ask you about San Antonio and Wemby. Is he the phenom? Is he as great as they projected him to be? And I know we're only 2 weeks into the season.
Right. So with Wemby, obviously, the defense is as good as advertised. He's already a menacing shot blocker. He might be the league's best help side defender I've ever seen, just because of how much ground he covers and the range. I think he's up to 17 blocks in his first 7 games or something like that, which is insane for a rookie. And he's just everywhere all the time. Like there was the game against Toronto. They used him at one point. He was guarding Dennis Schroeder up the full length of the floor, like chasing him with the floor, which is man. Dennis Schroeder is 6'1", so just imagine the visual of a 7'4" guy, step for step, with one of the quickest guards in this league. And obviously the shot blocking is there, the rim protection is there, but just him learning and being able to be used in that system at different times is going to make him, explosive. Obviously, offensively, the games will come and go. He had, I think, 13 points last night on 3 for 12 shooting, so that wasn't great. But he still wants the ball in those closing moments. He still is an incredibly, competitive young guy, and he's the perfect player to be in that system right now, given how hungry Popovich still has for the game. He still wants to win basketball games. He still wants to help these guys grow. And, there's no better pairing for a generational talent like that than a generational franchise head coach.
Talking about me in San Antonio. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot, and I really hate these kind of questions because it's so early. How good can this Rockets team be? Is this the year that we could say, well, they sniff around a play-in and maybe have a shot, or are they still a year or two away from being that competitive?
No, I think
barring any major injuries. Yeah,
I think they can. I think when it's all said and done, if this defense keeps up at this level, I think they're up to 14th in defensive efficiency. If they can hover around that for the year, they can definitely be a playing team. They still have enough assets, to go make a trade at the deadline if they have to go bring in some more help. But from a defensive standpoint, if they can keep this up. Now, granted, they just played the Kings team that didn't have De'Aaron Fox for 2 games, so you take some solid them. But you can only control who's in front of you. And this time last year, this same team could have played a Kings team without Darren Fox and got smoked by 30 at home. So, you take the victories where you can. And, they threw away, the Spurs game in overtime. It could very well be 4-2 right now. So that's a lot to be said for a team that's come from where they've come from. You've seen it.
Yeah.
I definitely think that playing is not out of their reach right now. It's not inconceivable at this moment.
So we've seen them, like you said, the Spurs game, and even the game against the Magic where they fought back, with a 30-point lead, and they shrunk it, and they were in that game as well. The Golden State game, I don't think anybody picked them, but they fought in the game as well. Who stands out to you in the West as a top couple of teams, and then who stands out to you in the East?
Obviously, Denver is going to be, the belle of the ball because it just seems like they're just humming. Nobody is stopping Nikola Jokic, who's now, without question, the best player on the planet. There's no more debate. We don't have to sit around and pretend anymore. He is the best.
Right.
But I still think, I want to see how the Clippers look in 15 games. I know that they lost last night, but adding James gives them something that they've never had before. He's just a different dynamic, and they still need time to gel. The Clippers do, but they still remain my dark horse. They're always going to be the dark horses because you have Kawhi and Paul George. I also really like what I'm seeing in Minnesota defensively from those guys. It's taken them a while to get going because of anytime you pair two polar opposite kind of big men in Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, it's going to be pretty mixed bag of feelings, but I like what they see so far. So I still have Denver as the cream of the crop in the Western Conference, but the next two teams dangerous wise are Clippers, Suns. Then you have the Warriors and stuff like that.
So you mentioned the Clippers. Of course, James Harden has been added to that team, as we know.
Yeah.
The question always becomes, can Kawhi and PG be healthy late, especially Kawhi? Russell Westbrook, early, the way that he has fit in there, he's been a great addition to them. The Russell Westbrook with the Clippers looks much better than he did with the Lakers. And so it'll be interesting to me to see how it meshes with James. Do you think that's all going to fit eventually together?
Yeah, because, James obviously made those comments about how he's not a system player. He is the system, which was hilarious to me, but he wasn't lying. This is somebody that's been an offensive juggernaut for a very long time. He's been able to adapt his game on numerous occasions. He just come out for a season where he led the league in assists, playing alongside MVP and Joel Embiid. So I think coming to the Clippers and a head coach in Tyronn Lue that's not afraid to get on players and is not afraid to put guys in uncomfortable spots is going to be good for James as well as good for those guys as well because, frankly, they haven't done anything since they paired PG and Kawhi together. And it's not their fault because, you can't control health sometimes and they've been unlucky. Right. But that move was made in mind to win championships. And, Steve Ballmer has been pretty vocal about the need to win the championship now. So I think adding James gives them that extra firepower, gives them an adequate ball handler, someone that they haven't had since Chris Paul left. But it just gives them that extra edge you need in basketball games at times. So especially in the Western Conference where you're going to need multiple capable scoring options at once and playmaking options at once. So I think after the smoke sales and stuff like that, you'll see the Clippers as one of the best teams in the NBA.
It will be fun to watch. And the last thing before I let you go, do you think the Rockets have enough scoring, shooting? Do they need another guy who can shoot or can score?
They don't have enough shooting at all. This is going to be a problem all year. They definitely need another floor spacer. I thought the Reggie Bullock thing was going to be better, but he hasn't gone on the floor much. So they need some more, punch in that front court. Now it gets easier if Jabari can take that lead consistently, but if you're talking about trying to make a play and push, you need some more older guys that can go get a bucket and, more importantly, space the floor. Because I think as a team, Rockets have struggled for a long time in terms of 3-point efficiency, 3-point shot, 3-point.
Yeah.
everything, and it really makes your half-court offense jumbled if you can't, consistently hit shots, especially when you have the potential of especially challenge lineups featuring guys like Amen Thompson, Teddy, all those guys that theoretically shouldn't mesh together. You need to hit, timely outside shots. So, I think they still need some more.
Keli Iko, I appreciate you, my friend. I know you're probably headed to practice. Will you be covering Lakers tomorrow night?
Yes, I'll be there.
All right. Well, I will see you at the Lakers. As always, thank you, and we will see you soon. Thank you for being our NBA expert here on Talk and taking a few minutes with us. All right, see you next time. Thanks, Kelly. That was Keli Iko, the athletic. Definitely a guy who's got his pulse on what's happening around the NBA and provides some great insight and input. I know he had to get over to Rockets practice today. Also want to let you hear from head coach Ime Udoka. We talked a little bit about defense. Here's Ime talking about what we've seen so far with this Rockets defense on the young season.
I mean, 22, 20, and 18, first three quarters, 60 points after three. Loved how we finished in the first half, and we talked about them coming out with the aggressive mindset, them being Sacramento for the third quarter. I loved how we did, held them to 18 in that quarter, so plus 12 in that quarter, extend the lead, and very pleased. You can't say much about it. 97 with a 37-point fourth quarter where they hit a bunch of garbage shots, but 2 games in a row. I'm very impressed.
I mentioned that Golden State was in town recently. They came in a week ago Sunday. It was a hard game. The Rockets were in it, but Golden State did what Golden State does, especially when you have a guy like Steph Curry on your team. Chris Paul is now part of that Golden State Warriors team. We got a chance to talk with him after the game. And one of the questions we asked him was about what advice does he give young players or young guys? What would he say to them about trying to have success in this league? And here's Chris Paul.
Fall in love with the work. It sounds simple. Fall in love with the work. And then you got to be able to adapt. Case in point tonight, or just, the league has drastically changed since I came in 05. The scores used to be 90 to 85. Now that's the score at the end of the third quarter, end of halftime. So if you can't adapt and change your game or whatnot with what's going on, then it'll be short-lived.
That was Chris Paul. He said, fall in love with the game and be able to adapt. He talked about how the game has changed. And you heard Kelly talking about the need for that perimeter shooting and the three-point numbers. I was looking at the numbers from last night's game. The final was 122 to 97. They're now 3-3 after dropping the first 3 games of the season. They've won 3 in a row, albeit the last 2 were over the Kings without one of the key players. But last night they shot 57% from the field, 48% from 3. They only had 10 turnovers. Those things matter. And they held, what you heard Ime say was they held the Kings to 22, 20, and 18 the first 3 quarters. And they gave up 37 points in the fourth quarter. A lot of that some of those were kind of, I hate to say garbage points, but garbage points. Anyway, it is early. We'll see what happens. They're in the midst of a 6 or 7 game homestand. Tomorrow night they host the Lakers, and I'll be there. So make sure you're following along to get updates. Now, remember, today is election day, everybody. If you did not vote early, as soon as you finish watching Chalk Talk, whenever you can, get to the polls. The polls close at 7 o'clock. As long as you are in line by 7, you will get a chance to vote. All right. So make sure that you're there. Make sure that you do your civic duty. And remember, vote your values. All right. I cannot encourage you on that enough. So we're going to shift gears for a bit and talk a little bit about those Houston Texans, right? How about those Texans? The Texans got to back to 100 with a win over Tampa Bay at home at NRG Stadium on Sunday. They did with an impressive last-minute drive stretch. The final was 39 to 37. They had come behind win, if you will. The last couple of games that they lost them late. I called them with them, walk-off scores. They did it against the Panthers. It happened with them when they lost in Atlanta. But on Sunday against the Buccaneers, they were able to hold them off. The last drive, led by rookie quarterback CJ Stroud, they had 46 seconds left the field. And so to get in the end zone, right? And they were able to do that. Here is CJ Stroud talking about that final drive.
2 minutes is big in this league, man. Like a lot of games come out from one scores. And this week we had a meeting and Jimmy Ward made a good point of like, hey, let's do more 2 minute walkthrough. So we did an extra 2 minute walkthrough after I think on Thursday. We usually do it Wednesday. We did it Thursday too. And that right there was the game. So like shout out to Jimmy, man, for being a vet, being really smart. And that just shows you, man, like how many people they put not only around myself, around this team to be smart, be vets, and to throw things out to the coaches and see if that works for us, and it works. So like you got to be able to win in 2 minute tight games and things like that. So we put a lot of work to it, all the way going back to OTAs, ozone layer, things like that. Like not being able to complete the ball before the end zone, outside the end zone, or dead in the ball. Like that was that last play, but luckily we scored. So, but they were telling, like Bob did a great job telling me the situation we were in. So just a lot of work put it in to make those plays.
So CJ Stroud had an historic day on Sunday. He completed 30 of 42 passes. He threw for 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. That 470 yards is an NFL record for rookies, right? That was a record. He has broken the passing records. Warren Moon tweeted him. Of course, if you followed Houston sports, you know about Warren Moon, the quarterback from the Houston Oilers, who said, man, I'm proud of you. What a way to play. Even guys like LeBron. So people beyond the game of football and out of the league were acknowledging what he did on Sunday. Not only did he throw for 470 yards, no interceptions, 3 different receivers had more than 100 yards. Dalton Schultz with 130 yards, Noah Brown, 153 yards, Tank Dell, 114 yards. He also connected with Nico Collins, and Andrew Beck, and also John Mechie. So he connected with several different receivers. You had 4 different receivers scoring touchdowns. Tank Dell scored 2, including the winning touchdown. It's just been really exciting to watch. And so here is one of the things that happened in the game, unfortunately, is that the kicker Kime Fairbairn went down at the end of the first quarter. After he kicked the 50-yard field goal before the half, he went down. And so there was no kicker. So when they came back after the half, running back Dare Agumbawale kicked the ball off, right? He kicked off because Ime was out. Now think about this too. Damian Pierce, the starting running back, was not active in Sunday's game, nursing an injury. And so who knows if who knows that if Damian Pierce had been active, if Dare would even have been active on Sunday. We do not know. But he was active, which works out because he was able to be the kicker. He kicked the ball off. He didn't go for the extra points. They tried for 2-point conversions a couple of times. The offense, it forced them really to be a lot more aggressive from a play calling standpoint. But he did kick a field goal. The running back, the 7-year running back veteran, did kick a field goal. And here is Dare talking about being the emergency kicker and nailing that 29-yarder.
Emergency kicker thing. I was always just kind of the unwritten emergency kicker, but nothing never came up. You know what I'm saying? Nothing never came that I needed to be out there kicking, but obviously
At what point did you realize?
Did you ever imagine you'd be kicking in an
no,
NFL game?
I didn't. But I mean, I guess, like I said, I was always the emergency kicker, so I knew it was a possibility.
So did you think you could, if you had opportunity maybe for a 35-yarder, because the 20, no, you had some distance on the 29. Could you went back to say 35? And
We had a kicking competition in college, and I kicked the 45 yards. You know what I'm saying? I got some power on the leg if I need it.
Fun time in that locker room. It was a good win for this Houston Texans team. New head coach, rookie quarterback, some young pieces. They, while not able to, struggling to still run the ball, ended up with 53 yards rushing. But the key was they got the win, and you had Dare Ogunwale kicking a field goal. You had Stroud breaking the rookie record for passing yards, and then I'm connecting with so many different receivers. It was an impressive outing for sure. One of the questions that was asked of head coach DeMeco Ryans after the game on Sunday, we hear all of this about culture. What's the culture, especially in this organization that used to be a big thing. Remember under the previous, I guess, regime, the last few years, about what the culture of this team is. And here is DeMeco talking about culture as it relates to this team.
It's about believing in each other. That's one thing I mentioned to our guys pregame before we went out there. Like, everybody just lean on each other, believe in each other, right? And we would come back in this locker room, let's make sure we come back with the win, no matter what it takes. And that's what I saw today. I saw a team gritted out when things, of course, they didn't go our way, right? We didn't get stops when we should have got stops, right? We lose our kicker. Like, everything that could have possibly went wrong for us, it went wrong. But it didn't matter because of the mindset of our locker room. Guys who are going to fight for each other, guys who believe in each other, and guys who are going to hold each other accountable. And that's what good culture is.
Thank you.
That is what good culture is. I think that is a great way to look at it. Guys who are going to hold each other accountable, who are going to fight for each other. And here's what's really cool. We asked DeMeco, what did you say to the team when they won in after the half? At the half. What did you say at halftime? And he said, that we had to hold each other accountable and fight together, and that we committed to not coming back in this locker room without a win. Like, we going to commit to getting it done, whatever it took. And they did that. Like you talked about, Dare, the running back, the emergency kicker, kicking a field goal, right? Kicking off. The last 46, DeMeco, you heard CJ talk about 2-minute drill, or, they get in that and they work on it. But that was a 46-second drive. Let me go back. I'm looking at the game book. And that last drive by let's see, I'm trying to see, where were we? The Texans. So they completed, so it was a 15-yard pass from CJ to Tank. They moved the ball 6 plays. It took 6 plays. They moved the ball 75 yards, and that drive took 40 seconds. When they scored that touchdown, it was 6 seconds left on the clock. Ball game, right? So when the Buccaneers scored the touchdown from Baker Mayfield to Moffitt and got the extra kick where they went up, the thought was, that's it, that's the game. But the Texans had basically a walk-off touchdown, right? With 46 seconds left. They had 6 seconds to spare, got it done. At 8 minutes and 45 seconds left in the fourth quarter, Dare could kick the 29-yard field goal, which Texas ahead. They needed that field goal to win. Everybody's contribution was big. The offensive line, TJ was sacked a few times, but they still gave him some time and gave him some protection. So it was a fun game to watch and cover, and a pretty exciting win for this Houston Texans franchise. After the game, we always get a chance to talk to CJ and bring him to the podium, and he is, he's an honest young man. He's very thoughtful. He talks about his growth, his family, his faith all the time. And one of the things that he also talked about on Sunday was that the support he had, support from his family, from his team. And he also talked about his father, who is incarcerated. And here's what he said when he talked about the support system he has and his father. Right, hold on.
And like, just humble me. Like, it's now. I mean, I'm gonna try to celebrate it tonight, and after that, I'm on to Cincinnati. But it's a blessing. I put in a lot of work throughout the week, and the guys know that. They see it. My family, they see the work I put in. And, honestly, like, that's what I've been battling with. Is just like trying to still be a family man, still help out, and still be a football player and do my job. So it's been tough, man. And for me to have a goal every Sunday to play well and to do great things, man, you have to have a great support staff. So I have it in my family. I have that in this building with my teammates. I have that with my best friends back home. And actually, I have that with my dad. I got to see my dad a little bit this week, man. And, I'm praying to God that something happen that he can get out and come to one of these games, man. I've been praying for him a lot. I know I didn't want to make this public, man, but like, our criminal justice system isn't right. And it's something that I need to probably be a little more vocal about. What he's going through is not right. And he called me this week and we got to talk. And I'm praying for the situation. Reform will reform or help me a little bit, but I think just letting it be known, man, like, you know, it's not just my dad's situation, but the whole criminal justice system is corrupt. I've been watching videos in Mississippi, some of the prisons that rats, roaches, and things like that. And don't get me wrong, like criminals, they should pay to do their time and everything should be like that, but they're still humans, you know what I mean? And I just want to shine light on that real quick, but yeah, I'm really blessed to break the record. I'm really blessed to get the win.
So that was CJ. We talking about father and in prison, and there were some people online that were kind of giving him some heat about it. And he said, "Listen, I understand that people are most of the time, but they are still human." And you know, after the press conference, I got a chance to. I usually chat with his mom for the moment. And she said she wanted him to talk about it whenever he felt like it and in the way he wanted to talk about it. At the end of the day, that is his father. And so that is just how thoughtful he is. And I think, I appreciate his transparency. And, I just hate it I hate to see people attack someone for what they feel, and I just think there's what we've seen from CJ Stroud in his very, very young career, right? He's a rookie. We're games in, and he has been consistent in what he's shown and who he is, and everyone around him and the way they talk about him and how he shows up and how much he works and how accountable and dutiful he is. I just think it's refreshing to see a young man be able to stand in his truth and be who it is he wants to be and is deemed to be. So, continue success to CJ Stroud, who is an inspiration to a lot of us. And I say us because I put me in that category, to keep the main thing, be clear and honest about his faith and not ashamed of sharing and not really throwing it in your face. He talks about it. And I think initially there was some who were like, but that's who he is. That's how he lives his life. And he's comfortable with it. And I remember once he was talking, maybe it was after practice one day, and he said, I know you guys might get tired of hearing me talk about my faith, but it's a part of his daily walk, right? So it's natural for him to talk about it. And you take from it what you can, but I appreciate that, because what I take from it is I can't really tell you how I get to be who I am without something that I consider and know is the foundation of who I am. And that is my relationship and my faith. So it's just good to see the way he handles it, the way he navigates it, and he's living it and not really trying to let somebody tell him how he should exercise it, right? And you take from it what you want. And if you're offended, then there's got to be something wrong on your end. That's what I say. Not his words, my words. So listen, big week so far for Houston, sports in Houston. The Texans win at home. They go on the road this week to Cincinnati. That is going to be a tough contest. We will see what happens when they go into Cincinnati this weekend to take on Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the best teams in the AFC. And the Houston Rockets are 3-3. I dropped the first 3 games of the season. They bounced back. They're 3-3. They face LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers tomorrow night. Wednesday night, then they play again on Friday. I believe it's the Pelicans. Let me be sure. Have, I think, 3 more games in this homestand. So tomorrow night is the Lakers. Friday night, they play the Pelicans at home. And then on Sunday, they play host to the Denver Nuggets. As you heard Kelly say, clearly, undoubtedly, the best team in the West for sure. Cream of the crop in the West before they then have a few days off before they head on the road. So there's 2 more games left in this homestand. It should be interesting to see. That's right. And before you get out of here, remember today, again, as I've said it already, it is election day. Make sure that you go vote. And as I always say, vote your values. I don't tell you who to vote for, but you gotta vote. It's too important. And every election is important. They get more and more important. And, listen, if there are things that you are not excited about, that you don't like, make sure that you vote. All elections start locally, right? If you're not, if it's your road, if it's your trash pickup, if you're worried about local crime, any of those things that happen in your cities, those are your city elections. So you've got to vote. If you have, there are 14 propositions, I think it's 14 on the ballot in Texas. Make sure that you're familiar with them. Get to the polls and vote. It's important. It's only, we're at the middle of the day. If you're watching the show live, you have until 7 p.m. to vote. And if you're watching the replay and it's after 7, I hope that you voted. I hope you voted. Drop me a note in the chat and tell me if you voted. I think it's important. I just want to give you a thumbs up. I want to criticize you. And I'm going to say this, if you're somebody today who's listening to this show, watching this show, and you say, well, I didn't get registered, I'm going to tell you to go ahead and get registered now, because there will be other elections. There will be a runoff, perhaps December if you're in Houston, wherever you are, but make sure that you vote. Of course you did, Charles. I did too. I voted. I'm an early voter. I voted early, but make sure that you get to the polls and vote. If you think your vote doesn't matter, just keep listening. I'll talk. I will keep reminding you of how it does. Every single vote matters. So make sure you vote. I'm encouraging you to do that. It's super important. And before we go, I want to remind you about a couple of things. Don't forget about Kimmy Treats. You can go over to Sunshine's over on OST between Amita and 288 and get your Kimmy Treats. There's vegan popcorn, there's the Kimmy bars, and there's also some body butter as we get back to some cooler weather later in the week. But you need body butter all the time, right? It's just really, really good for you. You can order your Kimmy Treats online at kimmytreats.com, or you can get them in person at Sunshine's. And here's what you can look for. And of course, don't forget about I Love Jinka. It is available at HEB stores around Texas, and it's available online at ilovejinka.com. It's a turmeric paste that's good for things like inflammation and aches and pains, and it helps with cholesterol and high blood pressure. There's a number of things that it's beneficial for. It's a great thing to add to your regimen, a product. I say thing. You can get the paste, you can get the powder, you can take the vegan capsules. If you go to HEB, you can get them in the store, or you can get online. If you go to HEB, this is where you find them.
Here at HEB, in the Healthy Living Department of Probiotics, you can find Jinka 7 days a week.
Yeah. Look at a Jinka sale. Look at that. Jinka.
All right, we are out of time for today. Special thanks to Keli Iko of The Athletic, our NBA expert, for joining us today. I appreciate Keli being a part of the show. It's always good to have some of our experts joining us. We'll have some more experts in the future. I've got some big interviews lined up. But remember, if there's somebody you'd like me to talk to or something you'd like to see us have here on Chalk Talk, make sure you hit me a note, drop me a note, inbox me, whatever platform you're watching the show on, you can hit me there, or you can send me a note at kim@kimwhitedavis.com. Make sure you say, hey, Kim, this is what I'd be interested in seeing. And you know what? Who knows? It could be something that we get to. I'll do my best to see if it's something that we can bring on the Chalk Talk platform. Remember, vote today. Out and vote. Also, make sure that you are registered. If you're not registered for today's election, just get registered, because if you stay registered, then you don't have to worry about getting registered. Okay, it's super important. Make sure you register. Vote today. Vote your values, and remember, do something kind for yourself and do something kind for somebody else. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next week on Chalk Talk. Peace.